Okay, what up, guys? What we've got here is a genuine drama of Ashes of Creation variety. MMO drama, my personal favourite. So what's happened is Ashes of Creation have committed the cardinal sin of selling stuff for a game that's not out. A cardinal sin they've been committing now for over half a decade, pretty much. And obviously, every time an MMO does something, people are going to moan about it. And especially when it's a crowdfunded MMO, because, well, we have like a decade of history of crowdfunding MMOs taking people's money, delivering nothing, and kind of just vanishing into the ether with that money. Ashes of Creation is a game that a lot of people have been excited for over the time. People have bought packages valued. I was going to say worth. No. Not worth. People bought packages valued by them at $500 for Alpha 1 and beyond access. And basically, they've just sold stuff the whole time. There's fucking hundreds of cosmetics in this game that's nowhere near being done and may never be. I'm not saying that to be like a hater or whatever. I literally couldn't care less at this point. I'm kind of apathetic to Ashes of Creation because I just have the brain drain of watching it for years, playing it in the Alpha 1 originally, and then just waiting, potentially another 3, 4, 5 years. I'm just beyond caring, especially when you see the business practices and things like that, and knowing what I know about development of MMOs and what to expect by the end of it from a smaller team when we've had bigger MMOs be complete failures. I'm more of the opinion of, just leave it. And then when something meaningful happens, I'll definitely hear about it. I'll cover it. I'll play it. And then when the game comes out, we'll judge it on what it is at that point, right? And we'll see whether or not it was worth the wait or the $500 people keep giving for these fucking stupid packages. But basically, people bought packages for Alpha 1. There's going to be Alpha 2. There's going to be Alpha going forward. There's going to be Beta going forward and all these things. And the messaging from Ashes and from Stephen Sharif, the CEO, is not in line with reality and objective logic and things like that. It sounds like PR and lies, basically, because what they've done, to give you the long and short of the drama, is they've decided to sell Alpha 2 keys to people, so access to Alpha 2, for over $100 each. And let me be clear here, because this is not brand new, but it's different to selling packages that have like a backer package that have a bunch of cosmetics and stuff when the game releases. These keys originally, and I say originally because there has been an update to this, were for Alpha 2, full stop. That means that when Alpha 2 ended and when Beta started, you wouldn't have access anymore. And presumably you'd have to buy access again, which is just... I don't think that this can be an omission in terms of like understanding what you're doing, because this clearly went through some kind of like, they talked about it, right? And they decided on this. And I can't believe that people who are going to make a great new MMO could be so short-sighted that they wouldn't know how fucking stupid it is to say on video that people have recorded forever, we need testers, so that's why we're selling this. But then presumably the people who are good testers that do the alpha and give you feedback and continue to test through to beta, you then take access away from them and sell it back. That cannot make sense from any kind of logical standpoint whatsoever, because presumably if they're a good enough tester that they continue to play test the game throughout the whole Alpha 2 period, get to beta and still want to do it, you're going to be like, nah, bro, actually, we're going to take that away from you and now you've got to buy again. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. So what they've done to try and like assuage the concerns and stop people from fucking yapping about, this is bad, this is terrible, blah, 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 they've come out and said clarifying A2 key announcement, but there's no real clarity here. They've just changed their stance, because in the video we're about to watch from the latest live stream, they repeatedly said this was for Alpha 2 only and not beta. So we're preparing an article to release on the website tomorrow on Monday regarding how the keys and phases will work in broader detail. I'll take a moment in this thread to clarify in detail how the Alpha 2 keys work and answer some questions in this thread. If you own an Alpha 2 key from previous pre-order packages on Kickstarter, You have access to all phases of Alpha 2. Alpha 2 begins for you on the weekend of October 25th. Cool. We already knew that. New Phase 1 keys will consist of weekend testing, starting with weekend testing beginning on November 8th. New Phase 2 keys will consist of week-long testing, 5 days at a time, beginning December 20th. Phase 3 keys will consist of 24/7 testing and is intended to run until the game launches. Now, obviously, this is like the different tiers. I don't know when we decided as an industry that everything was going to be in threes. Like, there'd always be 3 tiers. There's the, depending on how you want to go, some go gold, silver, bronze, but a lot of the times they go like diamond, fucking shungai, you know, whatever it's going to be. They give you these crazy, like, oh, look, it's so amazing that you've just spent the top amount of money for the cash shop stuff that you're going to get. But when did we decide everything was going to be in threes? So you can get a key for phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. I guess we decided when people started paying for this stuff. Purchasing into a phase grants access to subsequent phases. When beta starts, the Alpha 2 servers will live concurrently alongside the beta servers. Players who own Alpha 2 keys, including the new phase keys, will also have access to the beta servers. So this, again, this is not clarification. This is an addendum, right? They've added this on. As the top comment points out, adding in beta access for these guys was perfect. Appreciate it. Alpha 2 Phase 3 is expected to last at least 1 year. This is, of course, subject to change due to active development. Alpha 2 does not have a subscription cost. Of course, it's an alpha. When the game launches, Ashes will not have a box price yet. The cost behind alpha access accounts for server and CDN costs associated with a live service product. And while this is not a finished game, it will be a live service alpha that will be updating on a 6-week basis and will build out the rest of the game's content and features. This addresses most of the commentary I've read that required clarification. I want to reiterate, you should not consider purchasing testing access to Ashes if your intent is to play a completed game. Yeah, and we're going to go through that in a minute. This is not a typical approach of development and marketing. It kind of is nowadays. This is the new norm. It just is. Practically every game now that's going to be a live service that isn't from a AAA game, and even some that are, sell access. It depends what level of like development it's at, but a lot of them sell access, even if not always guaranteed to be through packages, but from something else. It will be rough, buggy, and require dedicated players who are willing to be testers. We have our internal QA teams along with externally contracted QA testers that are testing Ashes right now, every day. I understand that this approach is not everyone's cup of tea, but this is the path we're taking because I believe it will yield a better finished product. Hope to answer questions in the comments below. Now, my position on this has, and always will be, I do not give a singular solitary fuck if you want to sell things to your community that are willing to pay for them. I don't care. Nobody should care about that because it's not your money. It's not my money. It's the people who want to buy this and see the value of this. From that standpoint, there is no complaint here. There is a complaint, however, when the messaging of why you're doing it is not reality. Because no matter what you say, right, we all know from just a common sense perspective that the reason they're selling these things and not giving them away for free is to make money. That is the only reason that drives a decision like this, because every tertiary reason, every adjacent reason is something that isn't addressed by the money, right? The need of that money. Basically, if you say our reason to do this is because we need testers, then it would make more sense to give it out for free because you open up the pool to a much wider audience of people that could be testers. Putting something behind like a very large price is completely, it's not just at odds with, it's completely counterintuitive to the goal of like getting more testers. It just makes no fucking sense. It's 0 sense to make that argument. So when you say the reason that we're selling access is X, Y, and Z, and each of X, Y, and Z are completely at odds and contradictory to the actual thing you're doing, then you just know that you're lying. And when you lie to me, I just don't like it. I think that's the bad thing, and that's the thing that rubs people the wrong way. If Steven just came out and said, we're making an MMORPG, guys, and I'm funding most of it, and we've sold loads of stuff already. There's a massive cost from our audience and from me and from our team sunk into this game, but we need more money because it'll speed up development, it'll ease things for me, whatever it's going to be, whatever the real reason is. If you just say that, I think everybody says, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fair, that's fine. And the people who don't, They are the unreasonable ones. Whereas when you tell people it's for X, Y, and Z, and common sense dictates it's not, because the actions of what you're saying doesn't make sense, then you look like the unreasonable one. And it gives people who have criticisms, like legit criticisms, the air, right? It gives them the actual real points that make the most sense, because we can point to those things and say, that's just not true, right? I just missed that because I just pulled out my headphones, so just give me a second.
A lot of commentary about this. I know that we have made statements in the past about how we're going to approach releasing that new keys. To be clear, these Alpha 2 access keys are just the keys. This is a significant departure from what historically we have done with regards to pre-order packages, having virtual currency, having playtime when the game launches.
So as you can see here, these are the waves, right? Gold, silver, and bronze keys. Alpha 2 first wave, item $120, 110, and then 100. And you gain access gated based on this time. It's like November, December, and then May of 2025. And I don't think this massively matters. If you're going to sell the access, obviously you're creating like the FOMO of people wanting to buy into the first one, because everybody's hyped for a new MMO, and people will buy anything related to an MMO nowadays. People will spend $100 for 2 days early access to whatever new, dog shit, mediocre AAA MMO releases from Korea at this point, even knowing full well that it's a complete flop. Looking at you throwing a liberty. Basically, this part doesn't really matter. It is what it is. The fact that it's just the key to the game for like $120, obviously it's a large sum of money. When you consider what $120 gets you like in the rest of gaming, that's like 1.5 Ubisoft game. You could buy 1.5 buckets of slop from Ubisoft for $120. You might even be able to buy 2 buckets of slop from Ubisoft if you get the base edition and just get locked out of a bunch of content that they decided they were going to paywall because they think you're fucking stupid and people buy it and therefore they're right. But obviously nobody should really care about this other than to point at people and say, like, you're perpetuating something that's bad when buying in based on the lie. And I'm not saying that Stephen thinks that all these things that they're saying are untrue. I'm saying that they're not the real reason, right? These could be things that he says that are true and do play a factor, but they're not the real reason. Because again, as you'll see when he says it doesn't make any fucking sense. But here we go.
Which is, having multiple access and access to beta 1 and 2. These keys will just have access to Alpha 2, and they will have access to different phases of Alpha 2.
So just Alpha 2, right? So that clarifies that this wasn't a clarification, right? This was adding on because he saw the backlash of this. Because frankly, it's fucking stupid to remove somebody's access to something they paid $120 for at the next stage of development if they've been an active tester the whole time. It's completely counterproductive. And obviously the reason why he's using language here to be like, oh, this is just a key, it's because there was kind of the FOMO element of, oh, we'll not sell this stuff later on, so that's why you should buy it now and for this exorbitant cost. And then also on top of that, they don't want to piss off the people who are their biggest backers, their biggest supporters, by selling something that they thought they were like the golden gods, basically. They were the chosen children who gave that money and got access to this stuff. Again, nobody should really care about this. It is what it is. You should probably want more testers coming into the game, because then that allows for the fair weather people who just bought in to support it, which is the only reason you should ever buy any of this stuff anyway. If you bought any of the Ashes stuff to date, it doesn't matter if it was $1 or $500 or $1,000, you've donated that money. And if you think otherwise, you're an idiot. Like, you didn't buy a product. This is stuff that was never even fucking made when you bought it, and you knew that. So for them to just continue doing this, there should be no like misunderstandings. Nobody should really be angry about the idea of this. This is normal, and all of these games do this. It's how they continue development and things like that. So it's just fine, but it's the messaging that's like the really big problem, I think.
It is extremely important. It is extremely important to remember. You are not purchasing access to a game. You are not purchasing access to an early access. You are purchasing access to testing Alpha 2. So that is a very important aspect of these different.
He's right. And if you are not a tester or somebody who just has spare time and spare money, if you buy this, you're doing yourself a fucking mischief, guys. You really are. And that's the same for any of this, because you are basically funding the game, but you are taking on all the risk. Like, I'm never going to give this game a penny. Never have done. Never would do. Never will. And that's coming from somebody who has thousands of dollars spent on Kickstarter backing other games. Because I understand MMOs are so expensive and so complicated and so difficult to make, and they move so slowly that the idea, when it's conceived and when you backed it, could be amazing. But the reality of what you get, if you know anything about software development, the idea of what you get 7, 8, 10 years later, it could be outdated already. It could be, there could just have been so many limitations that the thing you deliver is irrelevant to what was made, like the pitch that was made. Stuff like that just basically means that there's a very low possibility that what was originally pitched meaningfully comes out later on and is as good as you thought it was going to be and was worth the wait and worth the money. It's just not how development works in general, especially over that long of a time period. And every MMO that releases ever, by the time it releases, is outdated on the tech it was built, because it's just the nature of how long things take. So I've never given them a penny. I never will until the game launches. I'll test it if they give me access. I think they did at one point. But aside from that, I think it's cool if people want to donate that money to see the thing that they believe in maybe exist one day. But aside from that, you're basically giving away your money to somebody to pay salaries for other people to try and do that. Your money's gone. They own proprietarily everything that they put the money into, and then they can sell that later on if they so choose. Steven's money going into this is an investment. He's an investor. He's made all of his money by doing some stuff I'm not going to get into in this video because people get upset when I do, and then investing that money in real estate and things. This is an investment. He owns all this work. He never loses, right? He doesn't lose if this game goes under because he has all this stuff that was built that he could potentially sell on to somebody else. Who does lose if this game doesn't get released is people that have sunk cost, either by money or emotions or time or whatever it is. So you just have to remember that. Again, I'm not being a hater. This is just all information that people should probably onboard before they engage with this topic.
Different items. Margaret, do you want to talk a little bit about how? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and we're keeping in mind the people who have purchased before as well. We know that our community has definitely expressed concern in regards to that. So hopefully, I know we're not going to please everybody. Steven and I have said that many times to ourselves. We're like, we're trying to be as fair as possible as we can be. But how this is going to work is all 3 of these keys will be available to you on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 at 11 a.m. Pacific. That is going to be next Wednesday. So for those of you who are with us watching this live on Friday, that is when that is going to take place. Each of these will end at a certain date or until supplies last. So we will have a number that we are looking at internally.
So there's another FOMO element, right? You better buy it quick because we're going to run out. We're going to run out of keys that we made for a game that's unreleased for people to test. Now, obviously, the reason that they would technically run out is because they only want a certain amount of testers, which, again, they could have gotten around having run out of the keys to be sold by just giving the keys away to their dedicated community members and things if it wasn't about money. But let's remember, despite the fact they never mention money here, it is about money. That's basically the core guiding principle of why this exists as an idea.
In order to make sure that we can service those users, have the capacity in order to make sure you have a good experience in Alpha 2. But if we hit those supplies, then we will let you know in advance, like, hey, we're going to start taking this down at this date, if it is before that date. But we're hoping that we won't have to do that, and it should end around the time lots that are there that you can see on the screen here. And then, so...
And just real quick, it's important to note, I just want to hammer this home again. And
Yeah.
content creators, please help me with this as well. You should not be buying a key to Alpha 2 if you're expecting to play a game.
Yeah.
You
don't
should
don't
not
get first wave, especially.
It is good they're saying this, but they know better. People are going to buy it because they want to try the game. They want to be the first people to try the game. They want to be in there. They want to learn the things. They want to know the things. They've been in this community for such a long time. They have such a sunk cost about it. People are going to do it, especially now that it gives access to later on so people can learn more for when the game releases and get like a competitive advantage. This is true. You're not buying a game here. You're buying access to an unreleased, potentially never released product that is in an alpha state. And when I played it in the last alpha, it was not worth playing. It was, you know, you'd have a better time like looking at a wall for 6 hours than you would playing what was available at that point. It was cool to see like the tech existed and there wasn't a crazy amount of lag and things for when there was hundreds of people on screen and stuff like that, because that's like a big element of what Ashes was going to be. But it's not a game. You're not playing a game. You're testing usually a test area and things that aren't. It's not fun, really.
Especially first wave. The great thing about us not having an NDA is that if you want to see the game's progress and not from a developer's perspective, you can see other people playing this game.
I do, because this video has been almost entirely... I don't consider what I've said in this video negative. I consider it realistic and true. But I just want to give like a positive on this, because I'm somebody who has always criticized NDAs in gaming and especially crowdfunding, because you're basically... It doesn't work, full stop. I can tell you this is somebody who releases videos and have released non-disclosure agreement information repeatedly for games over the last 4 years. I've never broken an NDA. But people break the NDA and send me stuff, and then I'm under no obligation whatsoever to keep that to myself unless it's copyrighted material, which obviously I don't share. But when people tell me their opinions and things like that and things that are going on, then, or something gets out into the public, then I can obviously talk about that, show that, whatever it's going to be. NDAs don't work. If something is like really bad happening, people are going to talk about it. The reason that a lot of companies in gaming say they use an NDA is because they don't want their stuff to get stolen from other companies. And that makes no sense at all, unless you're going to develop so slowly that it would give like despite having first mover advantage on fucking like 5 years of an MMO development, somebody's going to come in and take your ideas from you and build all that out before you can, in which case you deserve to lose, in my opinion, and would be better for the market if you did. Because that shows a lack of competence in general. But that's usually what they say. It's because, we don't want people to steal our ideas and blah, blah, blah. That shit's never made sense to me. It makes sense in tech and software and other areas of life, maybe. But in gaming, it doesn't. And especially because almost nobody ever gets held accountable when they break an NDA as a member of the public. If you're like an employee or a contractor and you break an NDA, you might get sued for breach of contract. But in general, if you're just like a tester, they just remove your access, because everybody knows NDAs are just kind of a scare tactic to make it so that less people post things online, footage and things like that, and make the game look bad and potentially have it lose money or opinion, general public opinion, right? So the fact that they've not got an NDA and they've shown the game for a long time now and allowed people to test it and talk about it and stuff like that, props to them, because most of the games don't, especially games that are crowdfunded. So I do have to say, rough with the smooth, like I've criticized Ashes many times, I've criticized Steven, and I'm criticizing the messaging of this, but that is something that they'll always get props from me on, because they didn't have to do that, because it's the norm to have NDAs and things like this, even when they're super far along in development and things. So they'll always get some good boy points from me on that one.
And you can see the progress of the game. You are not going to miss out on anything if you do not participate in Alpha 2. You're going to be able to see other people playing the game. Persistence doesn't carry over into the live launch of the game. It's going to be a brand new, fresh start when it comes to the launch of Ashes of Creation. So there's nothing that you're missing out on if you do not participate in Alpha 2. We are releasing these A2 keys because 2 reasons. One, we need additional testers as we move forward in these phases. And why do we need that?
I mean, the reason's not bullshit. It's just the reason for selling the keys. It makes it bullshit, right? They do need more testers, but you don't have to sell keys to get more testers. You've created that barrier yourself. And why have you created that barrier? Because you want the money. Like, I honestly, sincerely do not know whether or not... I know Steven's a smart guy. So I don't know whether he thinks other people are stupid or he doesn't understand how this comes across or whatever. But anybody who's even passively remotely intelligent will hear this and just be like, that's not the reason though, is it? Because it doesn't make sense. You're doing it for money. Everybody knows that. You could just say, yeah, we're doing it because we want money, because games are expensive and we've spent loads of money on this, and it would be nice to, have you guys spend some more money so that we earn it and we can make the game easier and less burden on me. Again, most people would just be like, yeah, makes sense, Steven. Right on, bro. Maybe I'll buy, and then move on. And there wouldn't be any drama.
Because ultimately what happens in every MMORPG is you have some sect of retention within cohorts. And that retention is always going to be at a downward angle from your starting user cohort.
This is not wrong.
So it's important to keep in mind that as phase 1 goes through, and as phase 2 goes through, and as phase 3 goes through, we will be introducing new users and new testers who do want to participate in testing and alpha.
Again, none of this is relevant to the thing having a price. It's actually counterintuitive to that entire idea.
Not looking at it from a gameplay from a being a fun and completed game perspective, but who want to help shape the form of what Ashes of Creation intends to be by offering good and actionable feedback, by creating bug reports for us, by crashing and being a test dummy for us, right? Those are elements of why a person who wants to participate might be encouraged to then purchase a key, not because they're purchasing access to early access.
I also want to make a clarification. If you purchase first wave, you get access to Alpha 2 starting on that date, and you get second, you're gonna play Alpha 2 for the rest of Alpha 2. If you get second wave, you're gonna have that date you start, and you get to play all the way to. You don't have to buy all 3 keys. That is not how it works. Just buy one key, and you get access to Alpha 2. That is how it works. I just want to make that very clear. You don't buy all 3. You just buy one, and then you get access from that date to the end of Alpha 2.
That's correct. Yep.
You do not get access to beta. This is only Alpha 2 access.
Yeah, so here you go. This is why, clarifying A2 announcements. You're not clarifying when you add in beta access. You're seeing the backlash. It's just kind of like, I don't know, bro. I always am going to feel... It might not even be malicious, and it might just be like, whatever. But as somebody who, a lot of my job and a lot of what I appreciate doing and have done for years is reading between the lines of things, and language is very, very important. It's why, lawyers get paid what they do, because language is incredibly important. And when you piss in my face and tell me it's raining, I don't like that. I'm like, yeah, it's not though, is it? That's piss. Everybody knows it is. Then again, some people don't. But when you say like, we're clarifying on the announcement, and then you basically add it in, that when beta starts, Alpha 2 servers will live concurrently. Players who own Alpha 2 keys will also have access to the beta servers. This is not a clarification. This is new information. And you've done that for one purpose and one purpose only. It's because you've seen the backlash of this, and then everybody comes in and pats you on the ass and says, good job. This is great.
If you want beta, we will maybe be offering another option.
When again, in reality, if nobody said anything about this, you wouldn't have given them beta access, then you'd have sold that. Because again, this is about money. It's not about what they're saying it is, at least not as the core driving reason as to why you're doing it this way.
For a beta in the future, but right now we're focused on Alpha 2 at the moment. We won't be bringing back pre-order packs. We've already said that before. So it will just be in the future. If we do decide to increase the amount of people in beta 1 or beta 2, it would be similar to this in the sense that it will be a key that you purchase for just that access. And it's not a code key. It's just access. You're gaining access to the game. You're not getting a code or a key that you're giving out to anybody.
And as Margaret said at the beginning, like, we fully understood and expected that this is going to be the spiciest of topics when it comes to access to the game, right? And there's not going to be a price that's going to please everybody. I
No.
mean, that's just the bottom line. And
There would have been. Do you know what that price would have been? Free. Now, I'm joking, actually, that's not even true. Because if you gave this to people for free, the people who bought into the alpha for $500 would have felt really upset. Because it's like, why the fuck did I pay $500? Or whatever the next tier down was for Alpha 2, because obviously those people got Alpha 1 and nobody else could get it. They'd be like, why the fuck did I pay that much money if these people just got in for free, right? And I think that's kind of silly because you got a bunch of other stuff as well. But there's a reason why they've went ahead and said like, oh, we're not selling the packages anymore. And then they found a way to circumvent that by just selling the keys. When in reality, most people didn't buy for cosmetics. They bought for the access to the game. So it's kind of like you've gone back on that a little bit, but not to the letter of what you said. It's just a roundabout way. So there would have been people upset, definitely, even if you gave this away for free.
with regards to the two objectives that releasing the additional keys provides, the first one again was providing the testers that we need in order to shape the game the right way.
Yeah.
The second is there are a lot of people who want to participate that didn't know about Ashes of Creation 6 months ago, that didn't know about Ashes of Creation 4 months ago.
Again, this is another, could be a real reason why they want to give people access. Irrelevant to selling access, though. Like, it just makes no sense. I could go into like a million analogies, but it's really just a waste of time. This should make sense to everybody. It's just fucking, it doesn't line up at all in any way.
That are learning about Ashes of Creation today.
That may learn about Ashes of Creation in May of next year.
Tomorrow, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to have avenues for those audiences to access the game. And what we've done here is we've approached it taking a look at the value of alpha access within the previous packages that we've offered as it relates to the other components of those packages, the game time, the virtual currency. For
again, you were the arbiter of this information. You decide on the value of all those things because you created them and you maintain that value. So this is again just irrelevant in terms of, you can definitely use your brain to like construct a narrative of like mental gymnastics, A, B, C. How are we going to make it to F if F equals we're selling access to these to this game and this testing? You can definitely go there. Like, you can construct an argument as to why it costs this amount of money and whatever. I just think then if you tell people it's for those reasons, you are being disingenuous, or whatever word we're going to use. It's just not. It's not the real reason, is it? Everybody knows. Well, again, I keep using these broad terms, right? Like everybody. It's not true. Some people legitimately think that this is the reason, and there will be fanboys of Ashes of Creation in the comments and in their Discord server saying, I'm just a hater, I've always been a hater, I'm lying, blah, 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 whatever it's going to be. This makes total sense to them. But in reality, that's the case with literally everything. Dr. Disrespect literally admitted to talking to an underage girl. And on my other monitor, I've got his subreddit open where everyone's just praising that he's coming back, saying lots of people are going to have egg on their face because the doc's going to come back and be bigger than ever. And it's like, what has that got to do with anything anybody's saying? He literally admitted to talking inappropriately to a minor. Like, there's no room for interpretation there. He said he did it. But people are still defending him, and people will defend literally anything if they have some kind of like sunk cost with it, whether again emotionally, financially, whatever it's going to be. So I expect no different from this. It's been no different any other time shit like this has happened.
For the cosmetics themselves and their value. Right. So comparatively, like, I would ask that some of the content creators also help to articulate and enumerate what the value proposition is between those two when we think about that from a comparative standpoint.
The other thing to note here is that we haven't provided an end date for Alpha 2. I think people are asking about that and want iteration on it, but we'll end Alpha 2 when we feel it's ready. So we want to make sure, as you saw in that phase 3 slide, there are some things that we want to ensure that we make sure that we get. And there's some additional features and systems that we'd also like to get in there for Alpha 2 that are not listed on that page. So we will kind of extend that Alpha 2 for as long as we feel it's necessary. So you will get a good chunk of time to play the game and test it. Obviously, towards the end there, you'll be playing more of a game. For the beginning, it's going to be very much like Steven said. You're not really playing a game, you're testing it. And it's going to be, a lot more basic systems versus as we get later in the phases, you'll see more of those intricacies come online.
And so I know the next section that we have is the AMA. And
Yes.
before we get into the AMA,
Okay.
I want to close by saying this for the deck. 2 important points. First, with regards to what we're doing with Alpha 2, the testing that it entails, the incomplete status of the game, right? The what we've talked about, this is not a completed game. One thing I love about our community, and that me having played many different MMOs, as many of you have, it can be difficult to find a community, in my opinion, as genuine as ours, and as welcoming and inviting and polite as ours. Not everybody is going to like what we're doing from a gameplay perspective. Not everybody is going to like the visuals of the game. Not everybody is going to like the monetization strategy of selling the keys. Not everybody is going to like cosmetics. Not everybody is going to like PvP. There is a very eclectic crowd of MMORPG players, and we are not building an MMO for everyone. And we know that, and we accept that, and that's a truth. There is a specific section of the market share that is going to be interested in Ashes of Creation. When those people who are not interested in one of those things comes into our community and says things that may ruffle your feathers, I would implore you to continue the upstanding tradition that our community has had.
I've not experienced this. I've had some fucking real toxic hate from people in the Ashes community. But then again, that's just every community on the internet. Full stop. It doesn't matter what it's about. It could be football. It could be a fucking car enthusiast. It could be a stamp collecting collective. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. Your community is. There is a way you can kind of help not make them as toxic as possible, and there's certain communities that are worse and that are kind of left to fester, especially with some content creators, some games, things like that. But in general, you're not 100% responsible for your community. It is what it is. It's a nice message, but the people that would send hate to people for having different opinions or whatever, they're so far gone, and they're such perpetually online fucking turbo losers that it doesn't matter what you say to them. You could say individually, like, you please stop please stop engaging in this behavior, Jesus, and they'll keep doing it anyway, because that's just what they do. So yeah, I appreciate the messaging. It's just the community does have some real bad eggs in there. Even some of their content creators are utter fucking, they're just like this. I'm not going to get into detail on that because I don't want to cause drama, but some of them are really not pleasant people, to be honest.
Over this course of these last several years, and be polite. Give them the proper advice and direction when it comes to how we as other human beings who live behind a screen should interact with each other, right? We are one community. We're a gaming community.
And you could
we
get
are
them
gamers.
to change their mind too, right?
No, yeah.
That is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
like they could become part of our community if they just understood like where we're coming from too.
Well, that speaks to being a good representative. And again, what I would say is we are one gaming community. We are all gamers together. We have different interests, and that's okay. And we have different thoughts, and some of us can be more abrasive than others, and that's okay too. But what I would ask of our community, and content creators, help me hit this home too, is that we are inviting of other opinions. We are inviting of other thoughts, and that we don't pounce, we don't attack, and we don't mistreat. We follow that golden rule. And we can be good stewards of this community and good representatives, like Margaret said. And by doing so, we will attract more users to this game. So please, I would tell you, as my fellow gamers, let us represent the best of us. Things are likely going to change, and people are not going to like that. And it is important for us not to be white knights, hold us accountable where we need to be held accountable.
True.
That's part of the symbiotic relationship between a developer and a community, right?
He ain't wrong. Steven's spitting right now. He's not wrong. And this is something that a lot of people don't get. Without people holding individuals, companies, whoever it's going to be accountable and bringing up things when there are actual issues or even concerns about issues that may arise based on something that they've seen or something that's been said or a direction that they think things are going, then things become immovable, right? Because once the train leaves the station, it's hard to get it back to that station. So when people, and I've seen this consistently over 4 years of covering gaming topics and mostly talking about controversy and criticism and things like that. When people that are fans of things and they really like something see you saying something that they perceive as negative without reason, or they disagree, or maybe they even agree, they've just kind of come to terms with it and they don't really see your perspective because of coming to terms with it. They attack you because they think you're doing something wrong. But in reality, this should be the norm. If everybody had this opinion that the criticism is necessary, obviously not all criticism is equal, especially if it's based on missing information or lies or whatever it's going to be. But if everybody held the opinion that criticism is necessary when it's applicable, then we'd have much better products across the board, full stop. We'd also have better communication with developers and people making things that we enjoy, that we consume. It would just be better in general. So yeah, I do appreciate that he's saying this, and he is 100% correct. Nothing good ever comes from no criticism and no honest, earnest feedback that isn't just bootlicking and being like, oh, I think everything's amazing, even though it's clearly not.
That's an important aspect of that. I don't watch criticisms or videos that talk about, losing trust in Intrepid or delays or problems. This is a marathon, not a race. Is that the right phrasing?
Yeah, I think.
I think I always get that mixed up. It's like, this is a marathon, not a sprint, or this is a marathon race.
Yeah.
This is a long haul journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you. The chat is saying it's a marathon, not a sprint. This is a marathon, not a sprint. What does that mean? That means that we still have a road ahead of us. We still have a lot of things that we need to do. And as a result of that road still being significant, there are going to be changes to what we have talked about here today.
Yeah.
And so trust,
and every other
that
day.
relationship of trust is hearing those words as well and having an understanding when those words are spoken, that could be the reality, and let us help set expectations with the broader community about that truth. That is what helps.
And I think on the front of, when you talked about we take criticism, we understand that criticism is an important part of the process. I mean, that's the whole point of feedback loops and suggestions and understanding what you guys want and making sure we're all on the same page. I think that it's how you communicate your criticisms, which is the big thing. There are constructive ways to do that versus ways that...
Yeah, exactly. If somebody says, stop doing this, you're a fucking idiot, that's completely different to like, I think that's, this is not good for this reason, and I think this would be better. You're then addressing the problem. Why is it a problem? And what could be done about that problem from your perspective, of course. And then you can see whether or not people agree, whether that's popular, whether the people doing the thing, hearing the criticism agree. But when it's leveled with an insult, or when it's just like, this is shit, like it's not helpful, is it? It just is what it is. Not all criticism is created equally, even if it's valid.
That are kind of vulgar, like Stephen said. And I think like finding the balance there is going to be very important, because, we're all people. We're doing our best on our front to like.
So I think, to be honest, we can probably end this here, because my food's here, and they're just, retreading ground of be nice and give legit criticism and all that good stuff. My personal opinion on this is I can see why it was a drama, but at the same time, like, it's not new. This is not a new thing. People should have known this was going to happen. Of course, if there's people clamoring at the gates, waving money in the air, saying, we want to give you money to come in to the playground, why would they not do that in the first place? It's just kind of like, again, I'm never, ever in my entire life going to know differently. I don't have to have insider information here to just know that when somebody says, oh, the only reason I'm doing this is because we need testers, and then you put a price tag on it, I just know you're not telling me the truth. You're basically telling me what you think I want to hear, which makes it feel like you think I'm an idiot. And I don't like that, and I'm never going to. Again, I don't think it's not a a real reason. Maybe they've convinced themselves that it's not for the money or whatever. It just doesn't matter. It's not real, and I prefer to engage in objective reality than, you know, fiction. And you could go as far as to people that believe that this is the real reason, that they'd randomly put a price tag on something. That's fan fiction. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for watching as always. Gamer Sups, link in video description. Buy waifu cups, buy merch. Gamer Sups is an awesome company. The drinks are genuinely super fucking nice. Drink them all the time myself. Actually feels bad that I had to leave all my waifu powders in Thailand, and then I've moved and I don't have them. But luckily I should have a new package come in, I think literally tomorrow. I think it said tomorrow, because the shipping's super quick. And then there's like a big event coming up soon, so we'll talk about that at some point soon. But if you use the link in the video description, you get a discount, I get a kickback. Costs you no more money, actually gives you money off, and you can engage in some slurping or some waifus. So thanks. I don't have anything else to say. I think it's been like 40 minutes. So see you next time. Peace. Have a good one. Bye bye.